Good morning. Welcome to the episode 89 now of the Blood Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful, comfortable, and now chilly, fall-like, and winterish, who knows at this time of year, we know in Atlantic City it could be whatever, conditions. And I thank you guys, as always, for watching. Like, share, subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and as well as on Substack. Um, Hopping right into this episode, guys. This will be the Week 9 recap. I know it's a little late. Obviously, we just got done with Week 10. But nonetheless, I wanted to make sure that I took my time and detailed everything. I have Week 10 recap coming up right after this episode, so stay tuned for that. But hopping into this recap from Week 9, crazy games, crazy list of games that we've had ultimately for the past 2 weeks. But I like to, sometimes when I get a little behind, it kind of helps me because I'm able to go and review some of the games from earlier the week prior and some of the things that I may have missed from watching the live action games, maybe the 3 or 4 or 5 that I'm watching at one time. So yeah, it's definitely dope to get into this. And like I said, it's a Blunt Talk Sports podcast, hitting y'all with hard hitting facts. Outside of that, what the fuck, what we doing? So anyway, hopping into this episode, we're gonna start backwards. We're gonna start from the Monday Night Football game all the way into the early window games from Week 9. The Monday Night Football matchup was a great matchup. It was Chiefs versus Bucs. Chiefs were able to prevail 30-24 over the Bucs. That game was pretty much came down to a battle of wills. The Chiefs learned how to win all types of ways, and it showed again last night. With injuries, with inconsistent play, with interceptions being made, with all types of football that's just uncharacteristic for this team. You got to give the Chiefs credit. They're doing everything that they're supposed to continue to be a winning team. And it showed again in Week 10 with the block field goal against the Broncos. Like I said, I'll touch on that too. But great win by the Chiefs. Great win. DeAndre Hopkins is proving to be one of the best trade acquisitions for any team, let alone a Kansas City team who has showed that, with the weapons, the little bit of weapons they have, they could be lethal. In that game, he had 8 receptions, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt went off. He was 27 carries, 106 yards. He had a touchdown. And I liked how Andy and Nagy kept the Bucs defense honest, because the Bucs defense really couldn't really move the ball. They couldn't really stop the run, is what I'm trying to say, for most of that game. Kareem Hunt was able to get 3 tough yards, 4 tough yards, 5, 6 tough yards. And that keeps the defense honest, because if you're playing Patrick Mahomes, and let's just say all bets are off, he's doing whatever the fuck he wants. If you can't stop the running game, it just makes it even harder to stop Pat. So credit to Kareem Hunt there for that. And old reliable Travis Kelce, 14 catches, 100 yards. And Tampa, he gave Tampa fits, with those comeback routes, those little, crossers, dropping in the lane and within the seam. Just little things that was needed, to get that team situated and put them in position. He had a fumble that could have been costly, but, nonetheless, I give him so much props. The Kansas City defense was tested, though. Liam Cohen and Baker Mayfield mixed it up. A lot of the misdirection game and reverse game and kind of, keeping Kansas City on their heels, not allowing Spagnuolo to really apply pressure with that blitz. And that's something to keep an eye on for Kansas City, because I was kind of shocked watching that game where it was like, wow, you can kind of get them with the misdirection because they are so aggressive. But they had 2 sacks. They had 2 sacks on the Bucs, so it wasn't like it was all for naught. But, anyway, the point is, you got to give the Bucs credit as well. They fought hard and wouldn't even die. I mean, they had 6 penalties for 50 yards, and I think Todd Bowles not going for it on 4th down on that 2-point conversion late in the 4th quarter was highly questionable. I think when your team has the momentum right there, you gotta go for it. You're betting you're playing it with house money anyway. I mean, nobody's expecting you to go in the Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. So you go in there and do that, you're good to go. And like I said, I don't understand why he didn't go for it when the option was there, but maybe he was trying to play it safe and conservative, win the game in overtime. I get it to a degree. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. And it'll be tough sledding for the Bucs for the rest of the year, because in the NFC South, Atlanta's starting to pull away, Saints are ass, Panthers are ass. So the reality is Atlanta's their true competition. If they can start putting some wins together and start getting healthy, Tampa's got a legitimate shot. Tampa's got a legitimate shot. But yeah, credit to the Kansas City Chiefs for doing their best and continuously being the great team that they are because, let's be honest. Kansas City is one of those teams where you could do everything right, but that one mistake against them will cost you. And the Bucs found out it was not taking that 2-point conversion. They played a masterful game against Kansas City. Should have won, but hell, the Broncos should have won. So what did we talk about? And 1 second, y'all. Hold on, gathering the rest of these notes. All right, and hopping into the next one, it will be Sunday Night Football, which was Colts versus Vikings. Colts lost 13-21. Vikings scored 21 points. I thought it was kind of crazy. That game was a little sloppy but physical. And it's funny because at any point, you're looking at Sam Darnold, and I've kind of felt like Sam Darnold has been playing with house money this year. I've mentioned on numerous episodes and some shorts and clips that I've done that the Cinderella slipper is going to fall off. And I just kind of feel like he makes a lot of dumbass passes, especially in this game against the Colts. Some of the dumbass turnovers that he made. He had suspect offensive line play, but it's one of those things where he's got to play better. You're starting to see the flaws within him. I mean, again, in that game, he was 28-34, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 2 bad interceptions. It wasn't like it was interceptions where it was like, oh, okay, this made sense. It was bad. And sacked 4 times. So that speaks to the offensive line play. Just poor decision making. I even liked how the Vikings used Aaron Jones and Cam Akers at running back. Combined, they were 27 carries for 110 yards. So they were splitting the workload. Kind of understood that part. Justin Jefferson is just a fucking monster. 7 receptions, 137 yards, averaging 19.6 per catch in that game against the Colts. I mean, there's no other adjective you can use for this man outside of fucking beast or monster. Freak, I guess. I don't know, but we're running out of adjectives. Nonetheless, I loved how they got Jordan Addison involved. I kind of feel like Sam Darnold is very Justin Jefferson centric. I mean, kind of hard not to be, being he's as great as he is a wide receiver, but you do know that they do key in on Justin Jefferson a lot, where you're going to have to spread the ball around to other guys, whether it be Jordan Addison, whether it be T.J. Hockenson, whether it be Cam Akers, whether it be Aaron Jones. The ball's going to have to get moved around. But I liked how they used Jordan Addison in this game, and he was used after complaining last week, especially after not getting touches. And everybody was kind of like, "Well, you're not going to be getting touches like that." Clearly, you see he can, and when there's a focus on getting him the ball within the offense, he can make plays. So that was definitely great to see. Definitely great to see. If you're the Colts, you look ass with Joe Flacco. You look ass with Joe Flacco, and there's no underestimating it. 16-27, 79 yards, and 1 interception. Bad football. I mean, it was so bad it had me questioning, has Jonathan Taylor not looking right since he got paid? I mean, he looked well this past week 10. Like I said, I'll touch on that on that episode, but in that game, he looked horrible. He had 13 carries, 48 yards. They bottled him up. Their offensive line couldn't get any type of rhythm against Minnesota. They couldn't really block well, couldn't really, run the ball well. It was just bad. And then you go even further, the Colts defense. I mean, they kept them in that game as much as possible. You got Chris Collins, we're talking about the triangle of death and shit. They get 4 sacks. If Flacco is going to play like that, though, they need to put Richardson back in. I get it. You were trying to send a message. You can't tap out. Maybe you're not ready. He's inexperienced. I get all that. Bryce Young got benched to put back in and has looked better as a quarterback. I think it's time for you guys to, save face and say, okay, we taught him a lesson. We spanked him on his ass. We sat him down for 2 games. Now he's got to learn. But they're just a bad football team right now. And I'm not sure that they're going to be able to turn, things around as quickly as they need to. Hopping next would be the Packers versus the Lions. Packers lost 24-14. That improved the Lions to 7-1, and then we had the crazy ass victory from the Lions against the Texans in Week 10. Again, touching on that soon. The Lions are definitely a force now. These past 2 weeks have confirmed they could play in all phases, any type of way, bad weather, good weather. dome, no dome, down, big, down only by a little bit, and it doesn't really phase them. They're going to keep coming. The defense was held up without Hutchinson. However, with Zadarius Smith being there now, we'll see. He didn't play in Week 10. Kind of gave his body a little rest and reprieve to get him acclimated, but we'll definitely see because they don't look sharp rushing the passer. I mean, they haven't. They didn't in that game against the Packers, and they didn't against the Texans. They haven't really looked sharp rushing the passer, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. They used a lot of the run game, in the screen game to blunt the Packers' attack, which I thought was tremendous. I mean, that's the quickest way. Green Bay's defense has been fucking phenomenal this year, and the only way you're going to really blunt their attack is by using the quick passing game, quick screen game to kind of alleviate the pressures and where they're coming from and how they can disguise their coverages with Jeff Hafley. And I'm basically just like, okay, at that point, if you got the Packers like that, it's going to be hard for the Packers to win this game. And it was. Packers definitely a disappointing showing. I think we all kind of thought they would have played better than what they did. The talk, of course, would be Love his interceptions and the 3 fumbles, which definitely didn't help. Definitely helped turn the game in Detroit's favor. It's weird because he has to play better. It seems like when he plays, he struggles when he's injured or just bad decision making. He has a lot of Carson Wentz in him when he's making plays like that, very Wentz-ish passing plays. Throwing while being sacked or, in the grips of a tackle and trying to toss it backwards. I don't know. Just shit you can't do as an NFL quarterback. You learn early. That's just, you can't do it. But he's going to play smarter and efficient football. And I think that they kind of need to adopt the formula that Philadelphia's using right now. Have Jordan Love throw 20 to 25 times. Run the ball a little bit more. We know Jordan Love can throw the ball. We've seen it. He can throw 40, 50 times. He's capable of doing that. The formula, though, you have Josh Jacobs. You have Emmanuel Wilson. You have a 2-headed running back system that can definitely get yards in bunches. Run the ball, throw the ball 20 to 24 times. Run the ball effectively. That puts it just sets that offense up so much better where they're not going to be able to key in on Jordan Love like that. And the pads and the receivers are going to be getting open because they can make plays. So something to just take into consideration if you're, Matt LaFleur and the Packers offense. But Jordan Love was 23 of 39, 273 yards. He had an interception and 3 fumbles, obviously. Josh Jacobs, 13 carries, 95 yards, 7.3 per carry. That was in the rain against the Lions defense. Emmanuel Wilson, 4 carries, 28 yards, 7 per carry. Again, this is against the Lions defense. I'm thinking the formula's there. I'm serious. 20 to 25 times. Run it. Diversify the ball between the rest of the pass catchers, the Jaden Reeds, the Christian Watsons, and the Dobbs of the world. Luke Musgraves, you figure it out. Speaking of which, Jaden Reed played well as I thought he would, because I don't trust the Detroit corners. Carlton Davis is a good veteran. They got some guys there, but I don't really trust their defensive back room. And case in point, Jaden Reed had him on skates. He didn't even score a touchdown, but he had 5 receptions for 113 yards. Clearly no answer for him. The ball distribution was even there for the Packers. 23 catches by the receivers, 273 yards altogether. So they were moving the ball. It was just the turnovers. Turnovers really what cost them. Detroit is not unbeatable. Detroit is not impervious to bad football. What it is that they hang around long enough to where your team gets scared or you make a bad decision, and then they capitalize. So kudos to them for doing it. Definitely was a division game they needed to win, but Packers too many turnovers. Without those turnovers, they possibly win that game. Next game that we're going to talk about would be the Commanders and Giants. Commanders won this game 27 to 22, sending the Giants into the basement of the NFC East. And I just know that if you're the Giants, because I want to start with the Giants first, because it's easy to talk about Washington and how well they've looked and how they've played beyond, expectations. The Giants are a fucking dumpster fire. I mean, in every sense of the word, a fucking dumpster fire. Daniel Jones sucks. And although he was efficient, don't get me wrong, he was 20 of 26, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, efficient. He's holding this team back. He holds the ball too long. They don't trust him in the red zone. They don't trust him on 2-point conversions. They don't trust him to get any legitimate points outside of a normal drive. Every time I see him in day ball in a 4th down and goal to go situation or a 2-point conversion, I consistently just see the lack of faith that Dayball has in him He does not trust Daniel Jones to run this offense fluidly. He does not trust Daniel Jones to score points, and it shows. It shows. Like I said, dumpster fire. Running backs are the reasons why the Giants ultimately stayed in the game. 31 carries, 164 yards. Tracy has been a phenomenal pickup for the Giants. He's definitely been a stud for them, good young player. The ball distribution wasn't even bad. You had 20 receptions, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they were both by the tight ends. So that wasn't the problem. The problem is that this team, whenever they're in goal to go, 2-point conversion, end of a drive, end of a half, got to get some points. It's weird because at the end, going into halftime or the last 2 minutes of a half, they're one of the best teams as far as scoring points. But they can't seem to translate that into normal drives playing football. And, again, I don't know, but the team is in full rebuild mode, and I'm glad we no longer have to watch their games. I mean, as an Eagles fan myself, we got one more game against them, but at that point, we might be resting starters. At the rate we're going, we might be resting starters. So, horrible football by the Giants. Definitely a bad football team. They're definitely in the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes. Got to get rid of Daniel Jones after this year. Got to. There's no way you can instill confidence in that fan base and that man still be on that roster. It's just not working. It's not working. As far as the Commanders go, Washington continues to show that they're one of the best teams in the NFC. Jaden Daniels is playing on another level. He played on another level in this game. Did kind of come back down to earth against the Steelers. I'll talk about that again in that Week 10 recap. But played on another level in this game. 15-22, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. I even like the running back by committee approach, especially with Brian Robinson being injured. They kind of really don't have a guy outside of him. Maybe Eckler can get touchdowns and pass catch, but that's kind of really it. 38 carries, 149 yards by the running backs. Like I said, Eckler scored only touchdown by a running back in that game, so that just kind of lets you know how, they were getting yards, weren't really doing too much. And like I said, I love the ball distribution by the Commanders' offense. 15 receptions, 209 yards. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, was shitting on the Giants. He had 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, this is what we come to expect from the Commanders now. The Giants, we already know they're trash. But, the Commanders, like I said, they're going to be tested really against the good teams. I mean, obviously in their loss in Week 10 against the Steelers, some of those things I'm going to highlight in that episode were shown and to be flaws. Running game, Jaden Daniels' mobility at times can be limited and be hampered. So, again, kudos to the Commanders getting that one against the Giants, but definitely some things that we wanted to see. And then they got, Thursday Night Football matchup coming up this week against the Eagles. So, it's going to be important. And this one is obviously near and dear to my heart. I definitely wanted to touch on this one for the end of the Week 9 recap episode. Cowboys versus Falcons. Falcons win the game 27-21, effectively ending the season for the Cowboys. Any hopes of a season return because Dak Prescott was injured. And I want to definitely touch on the Cowboys first before I get into the Falcons. We knew the Cowboys were on their last leg, possibly going into that game. After that Dak Prescott injury, they're definitely on their last leg now. Dak Prescott said it'd be best. He said it best on the sideline in that game. We fucking suck, and they do. They do. He was 18-24, 133 yards, 1 touchdown. Gets injured, pulled his hamstring, pulled it off the bone, nasty injury. Headed to IR, just confirmed this week from Jerry Jones. He's having season-ending surgery. Hopefully he heals up well and rests up for 2025 because he ain't going to want to be a part of the rest of this shit the rest of the year. They bragged because they were happy. Cooper Rush had 13-25, 115 yards, 1 touchdown. We'll talk on Cooper Rush's performance against Philadelphia in Week 10, but yeah. Rico Dowdle, he even played okay in that game, 12 carries, 75 yards. And they tried to employ the running back by committee approach. They had 21 carries, 137 yards between all their backs, which gives you an estimate of 6.5 per carry. They fucking suck, though. I mean, this is just what it is. The ball distribution was even good. 31 catches, 248 yards. They can't finish drives. I mean, 3rd and 4th down, they are one of the worst teams in football. I mean, and then 3 of 13 on 3rd down and 1 of 5 on 4th down against the Falcons. Horrible. Killed this team and ultimately ended the game. You couldn't do shit. And then they played Philly. More of these flaws showed. And then, not playing Zeke in that game because he was upset that he wasn't going to play because of, lack of touches, whatever. Gets in against Philadelphia, fumbles. You know, this team is done. This team is done. Put a fucking fork in them, knife, steak, whatever you want to, analogy or allegory you want to use. They're done. They're done. The Falcons, got to give them credit because they've definitely been gaining momentum. Lost this week, week 10 against the Saints did not help, but going into that game, they definitely gained some momentum. Kirk Cousins definitely looked healthy. He was shredding the Cowboys. He was 19-24. Then again, who hasn't shredded the Cowboys this year? 19-24, 222 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 2 fumbles. We also know he's like a slot machine if you can get around his hand or wrist. Bijan Robinson played decent, 19 carries, 86 yards, 4.5 per carry. So you definitely were happy with that if you're a Falcons fan. Falcons wide receivers even played decent. Ball distribution was there, 19 catches, 222 yards, 3 touchdowns from that group. Darnell Mooney, 5 catches, 88 yards. He had a touchdown, so he was one of those 3 that was scored. And the Falcons' defense was tenacious. They had 3 sacks, and they were pressuring Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush all game long. Dallas's O-line really couldn't hold up, so got to give credit to the Falcons there. They definitely kind of, like I said, exposed what the Cowboys weren't really good at, and it accentuated or more or less against Philadelphia. So, and wrapping up some house cleaning items, Dennis Allen, as we were expected, was fired. Derek Rizzi is now the interim coach for the New Orleans Saints. He got his first win in Week 10, beating the Falcons. Like I said, I'll touch on that in that episode. We knew Dennis Allen was getting fired, though. That team, was set up to fail. Sean Payton's a son of a bitch. He knew what he was doing. This is why he left. He knew the team was in cap hell. He knew what he was doing, so, sorry for Dennis Allen. Hopefully he'll get another coordinator job. Definitely will get another head coaching job. I think he's kind of proven he's, mediocre at best, but definitely not a head coach in the NFL. And then, with the Raiders, Luke Getsy and the Raiders offensive coordinating staff was just, completely fired. Just completely fired. Not getting Penix or Kingsbury definitely hurt this team. Definitely put this team in a situation where it was just they kind of had nowhere to go. I don't know what firing the whole staff is going to do as far as, improving wins or morale right now. But when you're the Raiders, you just got to do Raiders like shit. And ultimately, bad football team right now. That's going to do it for my Week 9 recap, guys. I thank you guys for always watching. Like I said, stay tuned for Week 10. Jam-packed episode. Bunch of content coming at you as always. This is the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I love you guys for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.